What if there is great joy and deep satisfaction that comes from making the mundane a masterpiece? What if the basic things that we do day in and day out that nobody sees, the hidden faithfulness that we have to serve our family, love our children well, love our husband well, take care of a home, create a home that others want to be in? What if this is a masterpiece that we can be creating day in and day out? And how can we get excited to wake up and make the mundane a masterpiece? To get excited about the work that we get to do uniquely as women? How can we, in essence, get fired up that what we're doing matters so very much now, but also in the scope of eternity? I want to talk about making the mundane a masterpiece today. Come with me today as I do some basic things around the house, but also just trying to make things a little more special, doing some flower arranging. Not that I think I'm a florist or I'm really great at it, but just trying to infuse beauty, something that feels nice, that honestly, even my little boys notice. They're like, wow, Mom, that's really pretty. That's really nice. And before, I would have thought something like that is absolutely frivolous. But building a home and building an environment that people want to be in is a really noble task, a really meaningful task. And having a home that people want to come into, I envision a big tree that just gives shade and rest to so many. And that's what we get to create with our homes. So, hey, my name is Lana. This is Girl Teaching Me. This whole channel is to help you become the mom and the woman that you are meant to be that intentional mama who is really thinking about these really small, seemingly insignificant choices that we have, but really making the mundane a masterpiece. That's what I hope that this channel helps you do with your life. And if you find yourself pregnant, because us mamas get pregnant sometimes, I have a class down below that's 5 key decisions that you can just even think through, that you can be empowered with, these little choices that can slowly help change your birth experience. Of course, birth can be wild and it doesn't always go to plan, but how can we make choices beforehand that lead to the birth that we want to have? That's all down below in that link for you. So a little backstory on me. I grew up in a really great home. I was outside of my home a lot though. I enjoyed being home, but I wasn't home very much. I was at school all day, extracurriculars, travel, softball, things like that. I really didn't get to be home, but I thought my mom did a really great job of creating a home that I did like to be in. But I didn't really get to participate in learning how to craft this, learning how to make a home. She worked during the week, and so I did get to see her clean the home on the weekends, and I did see my mom make home-cooked meals, and so I think my mom did a great job of setting an example in that way, but I did not get hands-on experience. Some of that, I'm sure, was my fault. I was probably not very willing to jump in and participate with the cleaning, as I probably should have, and I probably wanted to be on the go, because I was a pretty social teenager at the time. But now, having kids 11 and down, so I don't have teenagers yet, but I am thinking about those years coming up where I will have teenagers. I am wanting to slowly craft and curate a home that others want to be in. And I think this is an atmosphere. I'm really convinced that, yes, it is so important to not have a million things in our home, to have clutter. I think it's really important to think about the beauty. I mean, we as humans are made to notice beauty. That is just something that is ingrained in us, that we notice beauty. But also, I think the thing that is most important that we have control over as women is an internal peace that we have, an internal regulation that we have. Because I really believe that women are the thermostats in their home. That there's a proverb that says it's better for a man to live on the corner of a roof than live in a home with an unruly wife. And so we don't want to be that dripping of the faucet. We don't want to be that woman that just is like a rot to our husband's bones and to our children's bones. We want to be that mom who is like Proverbs 31, she can laugh at the days to come because she's not overly burdened, overly worried. But I think that using that power to choose, I talk about the power to choose all the time on this channel because it's something that has really changed my life and my mindset is that as a Christian, yes, I believe God is in charge and he's sovereign, and that gives me a great deal of peace that it's not all on me. I cannot control everything. And yet God gives us the power to choose, and we use that choice, hopefully, to love him, to choose him. But we can also use that power to choose to take control of our mind. We can love the Lord with our minds, with the things that we're thinking about. Even in Philippians, I think it's 4, oh my goodness, I always get this wrong, 4:8. It's think about things that are pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. The list goes on. Those are the things the Lord wants us to think about. And so he even wants us to flex that choice, that power to choose, to love him well with our minds. And when we love him well with our minds and we take control of our minds and what we're thinking about, it really changes our whole demeanor in our home. It changes the whole atmosphere. It changes the way we interact with our husband and our kids. And some very small examples of how I've done this very wrong is feeling sorry for myself. I think that's the number one way I have not loved the Lord well with my mind, is feeling sorry for myself. And this happens in very seemingly innocent ways where I feel like I'm maybe perhaps pulling more weight that week or in that season of life because things are busy for my husband, or we have a needy small baby or a child or things like that. And I can start to feel sorry for myself. And I think the enemy loves that. I think he loves to keep us down in that way where we start to feel helpless and we start to feel sorry for ourselves. And we're waiting for somebody to come and save us. Here's the good news though. We don't have to live that way. We don't have to live for the moment that our husband rides through the door to save us. We can choose right here and in this moment to not feel sorry for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, God is a good shepherd. He leads us to quiet waters, to green pastures. He says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. He doesn't want us to carry that whole burden of motherhood on our own. And it's exciting when we realize that there's a million small choices we can make every single day, like tiny little forks in the road, all day long, where we can choose to think about what is pure, what is lovely, what is admirable, what is excellent, what is praiseworthy. We can make these choices all day long, and it radically changed my life. I think I spent the first half of my 11 years, maybe more, in a million small ways, feeling sorry for myself. I did not realize it. In a million small ways, we can choose to love the Lord with our minds, and it changes the atmosphere of our home. And it makes the mundane a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece in a million small ways, to use the power to choose, to think about what we ought to think about, and to put away the thinking that is really not helpful to us, which is, I need somebody to come save me. I'm absolutely helpless. It's almost like a blend of pride and helplessness. So I want to pause you real quick. Tell me down below, because this is called Girl Teach Me, not Lana Teach Me. How do you try to make the mundane a masterpiece in your life as a mom? I want the comment sections to just be full of other women sharing tips and tricks and strategies, fails, wins on how they really intentionally try to create a masterpiece in their home. I want to hear from you because I know you have a lot to share as well. But another way that we can start to make the mundane a masterpiece is realizing that there's actually an immense amount of good dopamine that can flow through our body when we are putting our hands to the good work. I was talking to my husband about it just this morning, about our grandparent, and he was talking about the things that he loves about his grandmother who's living and his grandmother who passed away. And he was explaining, like, they were always cooking meals for other people, they were always doing this, they were always doing that. And I was like, oh, they were industrious. And he was like, oh wow, I haven't really heard that word. That's a great word for it. Yeah, they were industrious because it feels good to put your hand to something, to create something that translates into love. And that's the beautiful thing, I think, about what we get to do as women, is we get to put flesh on the gospel, on love. Love is having the highest good in mind for another, and we get to translate that into a good meal, into a clean home, into fresh laundry. We get to love others to the highest ability by being industrious with our hands. And when we put our hands to that good work, we put our hands in that dough, when we put our hands to folding laundry, things like that, actually, they do show that good stuff flows in our brain. Dopamine flows. In the book Dopamine Nation, which I wouldn't recommend reading the first chapter, it's a little rough, but she talks about how actually, when we do hard things that our brain can perceive as not fun, we actually get a good dose of dopamine. But what our body tends to crave, especially when we feel helpless, is to give ourselves treats, give ourselves breaks, to make exceptions to, I've worked so hard, I deserve this and that. I should just sit down and scroll for a while. That never leads anywhere good. And we always feel an immense amount of just blah, shame, yuck afterwards. And so I think making the mundane a masterpiece is remembering that being industrious is a good thing, and putting our hand to some crafts and some hobbies and some skills, some actual homemaking skills. Learning how to do different skills actually gives us a fair amount of dopamine, serotonin, feeling those feel-good hormones, oxytocin, where we're like, you know what? This actually feels really good. I don't think it ever sounds sometimes like a good idea, but once I get rolling, especially if I use a 10-minute timer, even just putting my hands to washing dishes, I do find like, okay, I'm like moving and this feels good. It's just when I'm really in that bad place where I'm feeling sorry for myself that it can get really bad. And the last way I want to say we can make the mundane a masterpiece, besides thinking about the environment, taking control of our mind, besides being industrious and seeing great value, that we don't need to be saved from the industry of the home, but actually that there's great skills that we can gain. I think the next one is realizing that people are the greatest work. I think that relationships and people, they are the mission, right? They are the mission of motherhood. Our children, our home, our husbands, that is the mission of motherhood. It's the people that get to come into the home. And sometimes I think just like we can be in the middle of labor and be in all the pain and forget that the whole point of labor is working hard to birth our baby so we can meet our baby, that little person is the point of the pain. I think even in motherhood, we can forget that as we quote unquote labor all day, through the good and the hard times, through the inconveniences of motherhood, it's for people, and keeping those people at the forefront of our minds, that we are investing in the next generation. It will not return void, that when we don't grow weary in doing good and in pouring into our children, keeping that connection strong, looking in their eyes, hugging until they let go, reading the word over them, doing what's best for them, and sometimes saying no, and they're not going to like it, but just having the best in mind for them. I think that's the number one way to make the mundane a masterpiece. And of course, for me, it always comes back to the Lord. I cannot do anything of any kind of significant value at all without the power that the Lord gives me, and the fact that I'm forgiven and I don't have to carry my burdens and I don't have to carry my sin anymore. I mean, that there is so much freedom that comes from that. And so I always want to come back there, because yes, I think we do strive to be our very best version of ourselves here on earth, but ultimately we can't do it on our own. And only the Lord can release our foot from the snare. If you just feel completely overburdened, you feel like motherhood is just like, I don't even know how I could go on. I think just taking a look and see, like, are we trying to carry too much on our own? Or do we really need a savior for our soul and somebody to save us in that way? But then in the day-to-day little choices that we have, remembering that God does give us the power to choose. He's there to help us. He'll never leave us nor forsake us. He won't leave us as an orphan. He's there. He's available. He cares. He's a good shepherd. But at the same time, he wants me to use the power to choose for good, to make the mundane a masterpiece. So just a reminder, tell me down below, how do you try, because we're all trying, right, to make the mundane a masterpiece? What did you glean from today? What are you struggling with? I want to hear from you down below, and I'll see you again in the next video.
It's so unnecessary dwelling about the past, 'cause I know that God is good. He led me to where I'm at. Sometimes I feel like giving up, you're giving in, but everything happens for a reason. It won't always be blue skies ahead. Sometimes you might need a helping hand, just like iron sharpens iron, making me stronger, calling me higher. When we come together, just like iron sharpens iron, making us stronger, calling us higher. When each other. We're growing together.